break the law have already been fined over it. Two prominent campaigners for Muslim rights walked through the city of Lasano in full Islamic dress and were immediately confronted by police. Now, the law only applies to veils which cover a woman's body from head to toe. And it not only applies to local Muslims, but also visiting tourists too. Those behind the law say that it sends a clear message to Islamic fundamentalists in Switzerland. Switzerland's not the first European country to see bans introduced on wearing Islamic face veils in public places. France was the first. That came in 2011. It was joined later in the same year by Belgium. A Dutch ban doesn't completely outlaw veils in public, but does forbid them in certain situations or for security reasons. Last year, the wealthiest region in Italy, Lombardy, stopped women from wearing burqas in hospitals and government buildings. OK, let's bring in a couple of guests to discuss this in more detail. On the left of our screens, pleased to welcome Graham Moore from the English Democrats group, and on the right, Dilly Hussain, who's deputy editor of 5 Pillars UK. Welcome to you both, gentlemen. Feel free to discuss these issues as politely as possible among yourselves. I just want to say first to you, Dilly, that this ban in Switzerland is controversial, of course. It's not only locals who are being stopped from wearing burqas, also tourists too who are coming to the country. What do you think about this measure? Is it a fair one or not?
I mean, personally, I believe it's a very knee-jerk reaction, and there's no substantive, empirical or criminal justification, even a moral justification to explain why a ban on a niqab has been implemented in one of the cantons in Switzerland. I mean, we've seen across Europe a number of policies implemented by governments, whether it's the direct ban, whether it's halal meat ban, club ban. And what this actually does in reality is that it demonizes a certain community, but there's no real substantive or empirical justification behind why the niqab as a religious garment for some Muslim women is linked to fundamentalism or terrorism or any kind of violent acts of criminality. So I would
the only people demonising themselves are Muslims that insist on bringing the hijab into a democratic country. Switzerland is possibly the most democratic area and country in the world. As you mentioned, there are cantons in Switzerland, and each one has a separate democratic process. And this was voted in by 65% of the population of Ticino, which is largely Roman Catholic. But the important thing is they are largely Italian. So the Italian culture in that canton is the majority.
Thank you for rudely interrupting me, Graham, but before you did interrupt, I'll just finish the point that I was making, then feel absolutely free to respond. The point I'm trying to make...
I'll only interrupt if I believe what you're... I mean, for example, you sat on a platform with a guy called Hafim al-Haddad, who referred to as a brother, who believes that there is a correct way to mutilate women. So I am going to interrupt you if you believe that coming into a democratic society and bringing in elements of a religion that is not justified. So you tell me where it says in your religion it must be...
Graham, look, Graham, there's no point pulling out straw men and digging up, unsubstantive, rumours and whatnot to have digs at each other. Let's have a
videos. I've watched the videos, but you answer me. I've asked you a question. So the question is, and I'm being polite, where does it say the hijab is a religious requirement? Tell me where it says that.
Well, it says in the verse of the Quran that tell the believing women to cover themselves, and an interpretation of that verse is that the veil or the niqab is a part of it. But putting that aside, I don't need to answer about my religion to someone like yourself who's part of a populist far-right nationalist group in England who's...
I have never been far-right. I am not far wrong. I am a nationalist. I agree. The problem that we have with an ideology that wants to subvert democracy.
Graham, you're embarrassing yourself.
And Islam does not believe in democracy. We have just had the same situation with Sadiq Khan, who's trying to take London interview you, even though more people voted, and I'm talking about democracy, so it's on the same subject.
Gentlemen, I don't want us to get too off topic here. Dilly, can I just come back, if you can hear me, Dilly, I just want to come back to you.
Neil, if I may just quickly, before you do continue.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Tell the other guest to have some kind of etiquette of debating. He's really embarrassing himself. Let's stick to the topic.
Etiquette? How about you saying that music is evil? Is that etiquette?
Okay, Graham, you'll get
any other religion.
You'll get your chance, Graham. I just want to come back to Dilly. I just want to put the question to you, Dilly. Often when you see Christians travelling around the world, because we were talking about tourists going to Switzerland will be affected, you see Christians travelling around the world. Now, frequently, almost always, they will respect the local traditions, and if it's a Muslim country, they will cover their heads, the women will use headscarves. Isn't it fair to say that Muslims should then also respect the traditions of, say, European countries such as Switzerland when they go there?
I mean, look, there's hundreds and thousands, if not millions of expatriates in the Muslim world, stretching from Morocco all the way to Indonesia. And they work freely and they're able to dress modestly within the remits of the law, just like we have laws within this country in what you can and cannot wear, which may be indecent exposure and so forth. And you'll also find in places like Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, where in certain beaches, women from Western Europe and the Western world are wearing bikinis and are free to wear what they want. They're not forced to wear the hijab or the niqab. So this is a bit dumb and founded, and it can't be substantiated. If they do wear the headscarf out of etiquette and respect, then obviously that's entirely their choice. But we are fully aware of hundreds and thousands of expats who work in the Muslim world, who work in the Middle East, who work in Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, and they're not forced to wear a hijab or a niqab. So, you know, that's one issue. But the wider issue here is, Neil, is that the niqab has become an issue in the last 3 to 4 years. Muslim women in the UK and Europe have been wearing the niqab for many years, for decades. Third, second, first generation Muslims have been wearing the niqab. We must ask ourselves, why all of a sudden has it become an issue? It's become an issue because it's being used as a tool to demonize and stigmatize a community where there is no empirical or research-based fact.
You are stigmatizing your own community, where your own communities are afraid because of your ideology to leave your ideology. They are told that if you leave this ideology, you will be put to death.
Graham,
there is only one set of people that are not playing by the rules of general civilized society, and that is the Islamic ideology that you belong to.
Graham, can we just get away from the religion for 1 second and just look at the principle of this is what people are wearing? Is it fair for them to basically, for any region or country, to police what people are wearing? Where does it stop? Are you then telling people you can't come in if you've got tattoos, if you wear certain items of clothing? Is that reasonable to police what people are wearing to that extent?
There are areas of the world where if you've got a tattoo, you're regarded as a criminal. For example, Japan, because it's part of the Japanese culture for criminals to be tattooed. In a lot of areas, that is the same thing. There are certain cultures that do certain things, but at the end of the day, what we're talking about is a democratic process. And the democratic process in one area of Switzerland, which is a canton called Ticino, simply them people culturally objected to the hijab, and they have said we don't want it.
They are predominantly Roman Catholic, though, aren't they, Graham? So does that mean that they're perhaps skewed in their perspective? They're not exactly a sort of a representation of global views.
No, they're responding to the consistent and coordinated media demonization of certain aspects of the Islamic faith, and therefore a knee-jerk reaction. The inevitable reaction would be that you start fearing the other.
The people of Switzerland are far right.
And the thing is, no, you're far right. That's what it is. I'm not saying Switzerland, you're far right. Anyway,
I've never been far right. I've never been far right, ever.
Let's talk about facts here. Graham's throwing out these lovely words: democratic process, democracy, democratic process. Let me just give him.
Have you ever stood in an election? Have you ever stood in an election?
And have you understood why you never won an election?
I'm asking you a question, because most Muslims do not like democracy Therefore, they don't stand in elections.
You just had a guy, Sadiq Khan, the Muslim London Mayor of London. So you're an embarrassment. You're full of hypocrisies.
He's now trying to subvert the democratic process and ask London to be part of the European Union. Straight away, he's shown his contempt for democracy.
Neil.
Yeah, to be fair, Dilly's got a good point there. There is a Muslim Mayor of London at the moment.
Yeah, he's talking nonsense. Come on, it is very embarrassing for your viewers who are having to listen to this individual. He's not staying on topic, and he's got no etiquette.
Okay, well, let them all go on and watch where you said music is evil.
No, I said
that. I didn't say that.
No, I said an opinion.
You say things on television, and you were told when you're being interviewed, you do realise you're on television, and you carry on with that rhetoric. That's,
you know, you're
that's a problem that you have.
Even a debate. It's like